Hey and welcome, I'm Hammeh and welcome to Unwrapped, my series in which I give my early thoughts and impressions on games I've just started playing, or games in early access or alpha or beta testing. Now for you Overwatch fans, do give this a go. I've got Overwatch lore videos coming up in the next few days, never you fear, and my latest Overwatch videos are in the playlist below. Today we're going to be having a look at the Barrows 4 that's come into closed beta just today. A turn-based RPG with a bit of a twist, dungeon crawler and puzzle game thrown together, the Barrows 4 is a modern update of a classic 1980s series of role-playing games featuring deep dark dungeons, lots of puzzles, a sharp sense of humour and never taking itself too seriously, which comes together really nicely in this beta. I'm going to go through everything to do with the game, from the game's story, a bit of history behind it, the combat, music, visuals and absolutely everything. So timecodes are in the description below if you want to skip to specific sections. So the history of the Bard's Tale, well, from Michael Cranford, Rebecca Heineman and Brian Fargo, a name you might recognise, the original series sold 400,000 or so copies in the 1980s, loads at the time, and was actually taking on Ultima in terms of popularity and indeed sales. Now revolutionary, or known at the time for its 3D graphics as you can see here amongst other things. Although the series has lain dormant for a few years, one of the original creators, Fargo, came back with a studio you might know as Interplay. Now Interplay of course worked on the original Fallout 1 and 2 games, so lots of role-playing heritage there. After Interplay, Fargo moved to In Exile, who have made Wasteland 2, Torment Tides of Numenera, and the Barrows 4 comes from that studio, the experience and those quality role-playing game backgrounds. The game's been a few years in the brewing. The Barrows 4 was successfully crowdfunded on Kickstarter in 2015 for about $1.5 million, and the PC release has been confirmed as September the 18th of 2018 later this year, and apparently PlayStation 4 and Xbox One ports are going to be expected before the end of the year, so this is one for you console gamers too. Okay, that's the history of the Barrows Tale. Now the story of the Barrows Tale 4.
The song I sing will tell the tale of a cold and wintry day, of castle walls and torchlit halls, and a price men had to pay.
So since the Barrows Tale 3, it's been over 100 years since Tarjan's destruction of Skara Brae, a prominent city in the Barrows Tale universe, and suffice to say things aren't going well in the present day. People are being taken by monsters, killed by dark forces, and the local cult of the Swordfather, a dominant religion in southern Caith, is blaming magicians, bards, elves, dwarves, and keepers of the old ways, as well as adventurers for this. Although these people aren't responsible, the cult of the Swordfathers actually burns down the Adventurers Guild, and you, escaping that with your new friend Arabi, resolve to investigate who's causing the trouble in town and beyond, and why. So then is the story set up for your investigating around Skara Brae and beyond. Now, before I jump into the core of the game, combat and more, I really want to quickly talk about the flavour and feeling of this game. Now, I can't think of a game that has made me laugh out loud in character creation before, and here are the lines that actually made me do it.
Come on, you wee git.
Is that your face, or are you walking backwards?
Oh, brilliant.
If you don't go away, I shall be quite cross.
It would be so nice if you weren't here.
And from my experience so far, this is the perfect summary of the feeling and how I take personally when I played the Barrows Tale. The humour of this game doesn't take itself too seriously and also suits it well. Now, remember of course that the Barrows Tale in the mid-80s was exploring fantasy story writing and, to a degree, some of its tropes 30 years ago or more. These have been expressed many times and in different ways since before this outing in the Barrows Tale 4. I enjoyed the writing and story in the Barrows Tale so far. It's got a lot of quirky NPCs and bits of humour. It's livening up the whole tone of the game without making it feel like it's taking itself too seriously or falling or succumbing to the often trod paths of RPG high fantasy storytelling over the last 30 years. The voice acting actually really lifts this up. The story is fully voice acted. It was penned by Nathan Long, who you might recognise as a writer on Wasteland 2 if you're an In Exile games fan, and there are apparently 350 speaking parts. Now it certainly felt like this in the closed beta. Everything felt voice acted. I almost felt guilty when skipping over some bits of it, including this guy in particular who frustrated and made me laugh a bit. Yeah, I'm coming back for your soup. He wouldn't let me have it after telling me how amazing it was.
No. On consideration, you are not good.
Only to let me know that I cannot... Right, well, I'm going to find, I swear, maybe not in this demo because it might not let me, but I swear I'm going to find a way to get this soup.
Ruffians.
Oh, suit yourself. I have to say I'm quite offended. Listen, Thomas. Were you Thomas? Listen, Thomas, you have made an enemy. So, on to the core of the game and what you get up to. Well, firstly, create your character. 7 races, varieties of human, outlander, dwarf, elf, and drow, each with their own corresponding stat bonus or trait. The Bard's Tale wouldn't be complete, of course, without the titular Bard of the Tale, as well as the Practitioner, the kind of magic archetype that can specialise, Fighter and Rogue. So far, so RPG for fans of the genre. Although it's worth knowing that with the Bard, the original Bard's Tale series was quite innovative in the buffs and debuffs associating with the hero in kind of a video game setting. Although, as with everything RPG-wise, Bards have been kicking around in the early days of Dungeons and Dragons, indeed the late 70s and before. As you level up, you get talents in trees, new weapons and abilities. There's kind of an ability to specialise into subclasses. For example, your bard can be more of a debuffer, a party buffer, giving you party bonuses, a bit of a frontline fighter, or maybe more, depending on the talents you take and the instruments indeed you play. Fighters can specialise into area of effect attacks, more armour breaking, being a bit more tanky to take damage, and with buffs to stats, as well as the ability to wear new armour, weapons, and a variety of interesting passives and effects. There are plenty of options for kitting out your party of 6 that it can be, with also mercenaries being available for hire if you need to fill a few slots. So that's what you have. How are you fighting? Well, combat is focused in a turn-based manner on a grid. More on that grid later. You have 2 resources: opportunity, which lets you use attacks, move around the grid, which is very important, as well as take certain actions, and then spell points for those who use spells to cast them. Now, managing all of these is important. Due to the grid-based combat system, it's pretty simple to start, but as soon as enemies start moving around grid squares, your attacks perhaps only hitting certain grid squares, then you have to start thinking and moving your party in a little bit of a dance, safety dance, to make sure you're in the right place at the right time and avoiding the enemy's attacks which might befall you or even columns of your team at any particular opportunity. I'd say think Darkest Dungeon, but kind of 3D, but with a few more twists. It's actually unfair to directly compare it, that's just the closest thing I can think of. This is kind of pretty unique in most of the RPGs I've played recently, so it's an interesting little twist on a theme. Now, the items you have and the heroes you're using can add to this. So take character abilities, for example. My party fighter got an ability that meant that teammates could move towards him for free or less opportunity. So therefore, that's huge in accessing different tactics and combos and planning when you're shuffling your heroes around the board. When your heroes' abilities start threatening certain squares, either further back, across the grid in different directions, it lets a lot of different tactics be accessible to you, particularly with the levitate style ability that lets you pick up an enemy and put them in another square, or indeed pick up an ally and put them in another square. Many different opportunities for combos arise. At the risk of sounding cheesy, it's not 4D chess, but it's certainly 3.5D chess in a really cool way. So outside of combat, there is plenty of exploring, puzzling and dungeon crawling, so a quick chat about those. Well, in terms of exploring the world around you, this game, it's worth mentioning, does let you get in over your head. You can certainly find alternative routes around things and through areas, as well as actually getting yourself into a lot of trouble. It does have 2 hard to win encounters at various points, straight from the beginning, and if, like you occasionally rush in, by accident or intentionally, then you could see yourself taking a trip to the nearest save stone. These are reasonably paced, there's no menu saving here, but it can cause you to have to do a little bit of replaying if you're not careful, and you actually end up party wiping. More scavengers? Looks like it. I'm just gonna swing first.
And they vanish.
Oh, blimey. Ooh, these guys look pretty tough. I don't think I wanted to get into this fight. Oh, and there's no way of running. I think this was a bad idea. So there we go. There's me thinking everything was so easy. Death comes on shadowed wings and soothes the soul of all life stings. Apart from for me, because now I'm going to have to go back to wherever it was that my first save was. Oh boy. So onto the puzzling, and something the Barrows Tale series was known for a lot. Now, I've got towards the end of this demo, and I think I'm probably in the last half hour or so. I'm actually slightly stuck in a good way, and that's not a bad thing. Dungeons offer you a variety of puzzles, locks backward and forward. This is certainly beyond hitting switch X to open door Y or bringing object A to lock B, although there are various combinations of that. The creepy magic mouths on the walls in the first dungeon I explored, a fan favourite apparently from the original series, whisper you riddles, hints and clues. There are plenty of instructions, notes on the walls with hints, and more. Another little nice feature is puzzle weapons. Now, if you get particular weapons, you can solve puzzles on the weapons to upgrade them. For example, this sliding puzzle that's made me feel slightly dense on the weapon that I discovered. These kind of things aren't my forte. I'm going to go back and sort it out for the rest to make sure I can unlock the additional upgrades and buffs. Now, there are items that you can put inside weapons, and I accidentally cursed my weapon by accident by putting an item inside it. I think I managed to sort it out in the end. A little bit of experimenting, perhaps not everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it really suited the atmosphere of the game, and it was all part of the fun. Finally, a little bit on crafting systems and loot. You can craft a variety of things using the variety of things that you pick up from boxes, crates, and similar, as well as opponents that you defeat. Crafting booze, for example, bards need it to accumulate spell points. If you drink too much, then you get drunk, you do double damage for a turn, and then you're stunned for a turn. So in Exile, call this a tactical pass out. You do have to time as a bard when you tactically pass out, so that you're not passing out in too dangerous a situation. You can also craft your usual health consumables, buff items, and other adventuring staples. Weaponry is interesting, as are items. They can give you different buffs to effects, they can help you with opportunity, with spell costs, with movement around the combat grid, as well as letting you have more specialization slots that mean that you can actually have an ability equipped and ready even if you're not using the appropriate weapon. This will let you mix and match weapons and abilities later in the game, allowing for a greater degree of customization of your heroes. So as for the craft, look and feel of the Bard's Tale 4 so far, and remember this is of course a beta, actually 3 of my most enjoyable moments so far, amongst many it has to be said, were from the music and visuals. Now the first of these was just the sheer main menu song. In a song harking back to the music and introductions of the original Bard's Tale, it was just so beautiful. It actually made me sit and listen to it all the way through until it was done before I actually started the game. Not many menu screens have done that to me. I think Dragon Age, the original Dragon Age Origins, was one of them.
The depths of Scarabray, snow in summer, ice in my heart. The
second moment was in my first foray through Scarabray. I heard this beautiful song from this NPC and I just had to stop and listen to it. Apparently there's 30 hours of Gaelic music composed by Jed Grimes of Simple Minds. That's Don't You Forget About Me, Breakfast Club fame, if you don't know them from any other songs. Apparently 22 songs have been recorded for the soundtrack, an array of Scottish musicians, including an actress from the Pixar movie Brave who sang in that film. Now, I'm kind of partial to Gaelic and folk music, but if you kind of like the Gaelic, sort of Celtic, Scottish vibe and culture, then this game is just seeped in it in a historical feeling way that feels really appropriate for the kind of story it wants to tell. It struck me that the game was pretty beautiful in its own way when I came out of Scarabray Below, the city under the city, for the first time, and was actually dock level on the Scarabray docks, as you see here. Now, there are apparently 4 different areas you visit, as well as Scarabray. You also visit the Badish lowlands, the Inshriarch woods, and the Cold Stenish Isles. There was a quest that I found that sent me to try and find someone there, but I'm reckoning that that's going to be a later phase of the game, not something you can access in this beta. It all combines just to feel really immersive, even if the odd funny one-liner or perhaps the jumping into the turn-based combat might occasionally make you feel as though you're pulled out of it. I, after a couple of hours of playing, very much settled into feeling immersed in the world, and for me that can only be a good thing. So, conclusions and thoughts so far? Well, The Bard's Tale 4 plays to its audience, certainly, both the fans of the original series, from what I can see. If you like CRPGs, combat RPGs, previous game fans, this is totally going to be your cup of tea. Now, if you're not a huge RPG player but enjoy fantasy games or worlds, it's definitely worth a go. There's a real character, world and charm to it. Whether you're a fan of Gaelic music, culture, the kind of Scottish aesthetic, it really sucks you in. Now, inXile said to expect around 30 hours of gameplay-ish from The Bard's Tale 4. Given that it's retailing at $39.99 or about £30 UK sterling, that kind of falls into mid-range, I think, in terms of pricing of games. Now, given that I've been trekking around Scarabray for the best part of 6 hours and haven't actually gone outside the city yet, whenever that's possible, there are 4 different parts of the continent that have been mentioned as previously to explore. I can definitely see this 30 hours being pretty reasonable, if not more so in terms of expectations. Combat is pretty fun. I enjoy the different tweaks and flavours, as well as the combo combos putting together, you very much felt as if you were learning how to do it better and better as you went on. And although I'm a little impatient when it comes to logical twisting puzzles such as these, I did enjoy the puzzle solving in the game, both in the dungeons and on the weapons as well. So Bard's Tale 4, pretty impressed, lots of cool stuff in it. I'll definitely be checking it out when it comes out on PC, September the 18th, 2018, later this year. Thank you for tuning in. What did you think of the Bard's Tale, of this video? Throw a like, subscribe if you enjoyed, comment below with what you think of this game. Is it your cup of tea? Would you like to see me cover other games out now or in future? I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments. I've actually done a full long playthrough of this game. I'm going to be uploading bits of it every day for the next week or so over on a different channel. So this is a channel where I'm just trying some experiments and things that I'm separating off from the Overwatch content for now. We'll see how it goes, but for longer plays of games, let's play content of me playing through games and talking, check out the link here. Thanks very much to my patrons on Patreon who make this content possible. If you'd like to see how you can support my channel or different content that you might enjoy from just $1 a month, go and check out patreon.com/Hammeh. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.